Okay, here we are. Thank you so much for coming back here. If you're new here, hello, my name is Jyotsna and I make bookish content. So if you like this video, go ahead, do the usual. I do not need to tell you what's the usual, but let's get to this particular video where I'm talking about the books that I read for the BookTube prize. And first of all, what's the BookTube prize? I think a lot of people get confused a bit, like what is the BookTube prize. So the BookTube prize is basically an award on BookTube which has been running since 2019, and this is the third year basically. Math, yeah, okay. Basically what happens is Robert from Barterhots organized this prize, and he's generally the sole organizer per se. The thing is that all the information is in the description box if you want to check it out in detail, but let me just give you a very short brief thing of how it works. Basically, we are like a pool of judges. There are a lot of judges, even you can apply to be a judge. You don't need to be like a booktuber or a social media influencer of books in general. What happens is that at the start of the year or at the end of the year, so after one whole season's done, because the final prize or the final winner is going to be declared for each year in the month of October. Then in December or in January, there's a video put up on the BookTube Prize channel. Do subscribe to them, by the way, which calls for judges. So basically, there's a form sent out and you have to register as a judge, and then that's how the process starts. So it starts with the Quarterfinals, where you have 48 books, and then it goes to the Quarterfinals, semifinals, and then the finals basically. The thing is that the whole system is kind of crowd-sourced in some way, because it's like all of these judges from all over the world, anybody can be a judge who kind of comes in and votes for their favorite book. So it's like majority wins, but then the majority is decided not by a jury but by a pool of judges who voluntarily come and read the books. Now, getting back to the books that I read, so basically I read in the quarterfinals, I read non-fiction group D, and each group, in all of the rounds per se, each group has 6 books. So there are rounds for fiction, and there are rounds for non-fiction as well, and each group has 6 books, like I explained, and you have to read 6 books within 2 months and then put in your votes and your rankings in order to go ahead and ensure that your votes are put in, and then the system counts stuff for you. Anyway, it's a huge process, but Robert explains it much better on his channel, so you can go ahead, browse all the videos. And if you're interested in being a judge, because I got to know about this prize in 2020 and it was too late for me to apply, so at this point of time it's a bit late actually to apply, but whenever the 2022 version comes in, you will be updated and you can register as a judge basically. So also, I highly recommend that you join as a judge next year, because generally, because of this prize, you kind of discover new books or authors you did not know anything about, and the same has happened with me. So let me start explaining all my ratings and rankings for the BookTube prize. So what generally happens is that you get 6 books and you have to rank the 6 books. So you have the ranking from 1 to 6, 1 being your most liked book and 6 being your least preferred book. So let's start with number 6, because that is my most disliked book. But before that, these are the books that I read for the BookTube prize. All of the 6 books I heard, but let's start with my 6th rated book. That is my least rated book in the list. So my least rated book of the BookTube prize is actually Uncanny Valley by Anna Wiener. And basically this book is about Anna Wiener's experiences at Silicon Valley in the tech startup industry, and how it's a very male dominated space, especially STEM. And it talks also about how women are looked down upon in the space, and how it's not a safe space for women or people from it's a very white male dominated space basically, in short. And although the topic is very interesting, although the topic is very I would say relevant, I kind of found the book pretty superficial, and that's why I only rated it 3 stars. Yeah, that's it. The thing is, the writing and the form of the writing is something that I like, but it fails to create an impact. I am an engineer myself, and I work not in a startup but in a corporate setup. So basically for me, like, I do kind of understand and empathize with situations where there is a glass ceiling present, correct? But Anna Wiener does things in a very superficial manner, where she's just concentrated on the form a lot, I felt, and not much on the content. And even if she concentrated on the content, it kind of like overrides the whole message that she wants to provide through the book. Now, I'm not saying that you should not read it just because I didn't like it much. The thing is, I just didn't find it much impactful, and if I would have had the physical copy of the book, it would just have been like a waste of physical space for me. But the point is, I don't think just because I rated it bad, you would rate it bad, right? Because 3 stars is just like average for me. Give it a try. If you're especially a woman in STEM, if you are a man in STEM, do try it out, because I think that this is one of those books that kind of would resonate with people who work exactly in that particular field. So, nice book, an okay book, but it was my least rated book of the whole 6. So yeah, that's that. Now let's go on to my 5th rated book, like my 5th book. And my 5th book is actually I mean, honestly, if you ask me, rating a set of books, all of them that you actually pretty much liked from 1 to 6, is kind of like tricky and difficult, but then I think you have to do it as per your preference and what you want to see go in the next round, correct? So my 5th book is a book I actually loved a lot. I liked it a lot for sure, and it is The End of Everything by Dr. Katie Mack. Yeah, I know. And the thing is, I like this book. I'm not gonna lie. I gave this book 4 stars. I really liked it a lot. The thing is that one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to science non-fiction, or physics non-fiction, when physicists write books, like we talk about Stephen Hawking or anybody, they use a lot of jargon. And in order to, like, I'm an engineer, right? And I would love people to like get into the sciences, or I would love people to go ahead and get into physics and research stuff. But when you write books with jargon and it's just like for the physics community, that I really hate, because I think physics and science should be acceptable to people outside of the field as well. The thing is that this book actually does not have that thing, right? Dr. Katie Mack has written this book keeping in mind the general public, the public who's not in STEM in general, right? Because if you're in STEM, you kind of understand these jargons because you've done physics maybe in like when you were in high school or when you were in like college. The thing is, Katie Mack tries to explain how our universe is going to come to an end in many ways, giving us relatable examples and also giving us visual, ideas of how the damage can be done. It's a very interesting book, and you have to read it. If you're like an astrophysics enthusiast, or you like cosmology, this is the book that you have to read. But again, it did contain like 60% jargons. Like 40% of it is relatable content, but 60% of it is still jargons. And I'm not going to say that it's a badly written book, because it's a great book and everyone should read it. But if you're someone who's like even slightly uncomfortable with jargons, this is not the book you should read. Like, the book will just like flow over your head, and that's not what you want when you read a non-fiction book. So that's why I kind of rated it 5 stars. The thing is, I feel that the BookTube prize somewhere, kind of like, I'm happy that this book kind of ran into the BookTube prize till this place, because I think it didn't go ahead. But my point was just that I personally feel that if the 60% of the jargons were reduced to like maybe 40% of jargons and 60% of relatability, that would have been like much better, right? But I appreciate Dr. Catherine Mack a lot. She is one of those rare women in STEM. She is a cosmologist and stuff like that, so I have immense respect for her, and I will read the books that she would publish next. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so let's move on to my fourth book, and my fourth book is Conditional Citizens by Leila Lalami, which I think a lot of people liked, but I again think that it's something that's very, very American. Now, don't get me wrong when I say this, but then I do think it's a good book. But this is one subject that has been like covered a lot of times via different mediums in the media as well, on social media especially, how like immigrants, or maybe like I would say naturalized citizens of the US are treated very different as compared to the majority white in general. So the book kind of focuses on important things, and I actually did rate the book a good rating. Let me just check my rating. Oh my goodness. So it is, yeah, so I actually rated the book 4.8 stars, but I got the 0.2 stars for some kind of like repetitive nature of the book in general, because I have kind of like seen a lot and read a lot on this topic. I know that no matter how much ever you keep talking about it, the value of it does not reduce, of course. But the thing is that this book is important. I 100% agree the book is important, but it's very US centric. So for me, it was not that relatable, and that's why this is on the 4th place and not like, somewhere high above. So that's that. But again, if you're an American, and or if you're looking forward to read like this anecdote on racism and how there is a lot of discrimination in the US, then this is a book that I recommend, especially if you're from the US. You'll like it a lot because it is 100% US centric. Now let's get on to the book. Let's get on to top 3. Okay, we need a drum roll here because top 3 is what I really wanted to see in my I would say the next round, right? Top 3 is what I wanted to see. So let's think about this. Let's think about this, right? But so my third book is Inferno by Catherine Cho. Now this was even nominated for the Jhalak Prize, but I don't think it won the Jhalak Prize. The thing is that with Catherine Cho, she is actually a Korean American who stays in London currently, and it talks about her struggles with psychosis and I think post maternal depression as well, and how her whole mental health literally broke down when she gave birth to her child. It's a very heartbreaking memoir. It'll make you cry, and especially it comes with a lot of trigger warnings. So if you're a mother, or you became a mother recently, this is not the book for you to read. Okay, it talks about like how a lot of incidents in her life affected her mental health, and finally it led to psychosis, due to which she had to be institutionalized and kept under observation, and how a lot of like things would be illusions for her, because for her the world that she was seeing during her psychotic episode was just inferno, basically. I actually like this book a lot. I think this is an important book, and it talks about mental health, especially mental health that affects mothers and that comes along with motherhood. It talks about a lot of situations where the family of I would say, or the people around you might not understand what you're going through, and it kind of like emphasizes on this particular fact that how like society expects mothers to be like these perfect beings in general, but that's something like that's like a part of tradition, right? Where mothers have to be perfect, mothers have to be this, mothers have to be like that. But what do you do when you're a mother and you have a mental health issue? So it's a nice book. Again, trigger warnings come along with this one. I highly recommend that you read it. But yeah, it's like a hard-hitting book for sure. And I actually listened to the audiobook, and I think the audiobook was narrated by Catherine herself. And this is a book that she started writing when she was in the hospital, especially when she was institutionalized. That's when she started actually writing the book. And yeah, I recommend it. Read it. Okay, so that's like my third book. Okay, cool. And let's get on to my second book in this list. So 3 to 1 are what you should read ideally, because 3 to 1 are the books that I wanted to say go move forward. The book number 2 is The Dragons, the Giant, the Women by Vaetu Moore, which is a must read. Okay, like this is a must read. It talks about the Liberian Civil War and the escape of Vaetu Moore's family, or the Moore family in general. I love this book. Okay, I think the thing is that the reason why this is in the second position only, I'll tell you why in some time. But the book emphasizes on the refugee crisis. The book emphasizes on how people deal with things when they are in a civil war. The book emphasizes on a lot of things, on a lot of things that are still prevalent in this world today. The civil war in Liberia happened in the late 80s, like around 1990s. That's when the civil war actually happened. But you have to realize that what kind of dynamic was there in Liberia at that particular time. There were a lot of anecdotes of Liberian history that I did not know about at all, because Liberia for me as a country is something that's like very unknown. But I had to Google a lot of stuff, watch a lot of YouTube videos in order to understand the situation in Liberia then. Now coming back to why did I rate this or why did I give this only the second position and not the first position? I have a reason, yes. So first of all, let me just tell you my rating. I rated this book 4.9 stars, okay, and it's exactly 4.9. It's not even like a full 5. And the reason I rated it 4.9 stars is simply because the way the book has been written, the chronological order of the book is something that did not sit that well with me. So the book starts off with the war and the civil war and the family being refugees, but then it soon transcends to a form of mental health thing where because of this whole situation or the trauma that they faced or the author faced when they were young, it kind of like transcends into something like different altogether in the middle of the book, and that kind of breaks the flow somehow. Now the thing is that you may like it, but for me it didn't sit well, because here I was like wanting to know how these refugees got out of Liberia, but then unfortunately that particular story break kind of like unhinged me for like 2 to 3 days, and then it took me 2 to 3 days to get back to the book. I think it's very interesting to see how the Liberian Civil War played out and the history behind it, and how Vaetu Moore explains who's the dragon, who's the giant, who are the women. And it's very symbolic per se, and it's still prevalent in this world today, because we have had a lot of civil wars ever since then. But I recommend this book. If you've not read this book yet and you want to keep a physical copy, yes, this is one of those books you have to read as a physical copy. And I wish I had a physical copy of the book, but I don't think I'll be investing in one, because it's just been made available in India. This morning I just saw the story, and from one of the bookstores here in Pune, and yeah, so interesting stuff there. And yeah, so highly recommended by the Moore. The next book, which is my first, so this is like the book that everyone should read, and this is the book that I wanted to see move forward, but it did not move forward, unfortunately. But although it did move forward, it is a book you should read, and it's called Eat the Buddha by Barbara Demick. Yes, this is the book you should read. This book talks about the Chinese occupation in Tibet, and it talks about how China has tried to kind of make Tibet a communist country, has tried to take over Tibet in many forms, in many ways, and why the Dalai Lama is in exile in India. It kind of traces the history of Tibet ever since I would say ever since Maoism came into the picture. It talks about a lot of stuff, especially the history of Tibet and the history of China in general. I learned a lot of things about Chinese communism in general because of this book, and especially Barbara Demick. She is a very famous reporter in the US, and she's also like on the United Nations panel, I think, because I've seen like a couple of videos of hers on YouTube where she's on the United Nations panel, and it's very interesting to see her talk. The thing is that she's also been undercover in China, no, not in China, sorry, in Tibet. She was undercover in Tibet because Chinese citizens cannot like, I would say there are a lot of checks that actually go on, and white people in general or news reporters in general cannot make it into Tibet, right? They are not they are kind of restricted by the Chinese government. And even like the last riots that took place, or the self-immolation of Buddhist monks that actually takes place, that is also discussed in this book, and it's very, very interesting, and it kind of provides you a good political history of China and Tibet. So I highly recommend it, and also I'm looking forward. Like, Barbara Demick is my new favorite author, by the way. So anything written by Barbara Demick, I am up for it. Plus, she's a strong woman that I actually look up to. So that's that. And yeah, so this was my ranking, and this was my rating. Eat the Buddha was a full 5 for me, by the way. But now let's go on and see which books actually made it forward. So the 3 books that actually made it forward were Vaito Moore's book, the Dragons, the Giant, the Women, Conditional Citizens by Leila Lelami, and Inferno by Catherine Cho. My top 3, out of my top 3, 2 of them did go into the semi-finals, but unfortunately Eat the Buddha did not, and it was my top book. I really wish that it would have, but unfortunately it has not. But I recommend it anyway. And about Conditional Citizens being there in the semi-finals, I totally understand why is it there, because like I said, it's pretty US centric, and the BookTube prize also has a lot of judges like from the West as well. So I totally understand why this is like an important book in the West, because there's a lot of racism that happens in the West basically. So I'm not like upset, I'm not that disappointed, because Vaito Moore and Catherine Cho are in the semi-finals, and Leila Lelami as well, like, is an author of color, right? Like, she's actually from Morocco, so I'm not like even sad about that. I'm like happy that even that book made it in, but I am really sad that Eat the Buddha by Barbara Demick had not made it in, because it's a book that everyone should read. It's a book that talks about a lot of important topics that happen in today's world, and if you're looking for something that's political nonfiction plus historical nonfiction, this is the book that you should read. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Like, this is like the end of the video, and if you've like reached till this place, give me an award, like, because it's the BookTube prize, give me an award emoji. Thank you so much. I don't know, I just like doing all of these emoji stuff because I'm like pretty into that ways. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm very, very happy that you reached till the end of this, and I'm very happy that the BookTube prize and Robert gave me an opportunity to actually read these amazing books. And again, if you are looking forward to looking at more information about the BookTube prize, you can DM me on Instagram and I'll answer your questions, or you can just head on to their channel and check out their stuff, because they explain it like very well as well. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next video, which should hopefully be a weekly reads on Wednesday. Bye.